Hi, this is Bob Boross, and this is my Jazz and Tap Dance Life. Welcome. It's Wednesday, April 17th. I am here today. I'm going to talk a little bit about Who's Got the Pain, Bob Fosse's dance, Who's Got the Pain. I know it's really in the news right now with the new Fosse Verdon show that's on television. And in fact, last night's episode was strictly about how that dance was created. And there is coming from I think the direction of what the episodes are taking is what are the contributions of Gwen Verdon to the choreography of Bob Fosse, and what has been undocumented, and where is her rightful place within this. So there is some question as to what normally is known as Bob Fosse's Who's Got the Pain, as to what she contributed to that. I have my own thoughts on this, and that's what this video is going to be about, is that not only is Gwen Verdon involved in this, but there is someone else who's involved in the creation of Who's Got the Pain, and I'll be giving you some information on that as we go through. So just very quickly, in the episode last night, they're working on Damn Yankees. The end of the first act is not working. They need a new number. Finally, they decide to go to a new number. And very quickly, they put together what is Who's Got the Pain. I'm going to read just a little bit, and this is actually from the Fosse book by Sam Wasson, which is the source material for most of what's in the Fosse Verdon television series that's currently on. So I'm going to read from page 113. And they're talking about the creation of that dance. And so the previous number was a gorilla number. The gorilla number went. In came Who's Got the Pain, a bite-sized mambo for Eddie Phillips and Gwen. Quote, and this is Gwen Verdon speaking, quote, Bob and I put the number together in about 2 hours, unquote, she said. They put the number together in 2 hours. So as you know, if you're a choreographer, if you are working to create something in a very limited time, that's probably the last thing you do is create something absolutely brand new, that's all new choreography, all new movement invention. What you do in 2 hours is you draw on what's in you, what's your instinct, and how to just make things come together as soon as possible. So in other words, you're usually drawing on things that are already in you. You're not coming up with something brand new because you don't have the time. And I think that that's something that was going on here. So in terms of these two people, Bob Fosse and Gwen Verdon, what did they have within them? What did they draw from? And that's what we're going to talk a little bit about here right now. So I'm going to switch over to my QuickTime, and I'm going to talk a little bit about some things that are out there. First, I'm going to bring up, this is a section of the Havana section, the Mambo section from Guys and Dolls, which actually opened on Broadway in 1950. The film itself was later. The film was on 1955. So still, though, both versions choreographed by Michael Kidd. And this is a mambo, a stylish mambo version that would have been seen by everybody, certainly would have been seen by Fosse and Gwen Verdon, who did work with Michael Kidd on Can Can. So we're just going to pop this in here and show a little bit of this. Now, in terms of what that stylization is, the bent over, the snapping of the knees, that's something that would have been out there as a standard version of what might have been done in the mambo, especially theatrically at that time. Okay, and what I'm going to do now is take a quick zip forward to about 2:30. Okay. And we're just going to watch a little bit of what the ensemble is doing in the background here. There's a little back and a push forward. And back, push forward, and a little hip step side, back, push forward, and a little hip step around, okay? So that's just a very quick look at something that might have been what was just out there. So that definitely would have been source material. So we're talking about Guys and Dolls as actually being something that might have been on their mind. What I'm going to do now, though, is now we're going to go to actually Betty Grable and Gwen Verdon, and choreography by Jack Cole. This is a piece called I Feel Like Dancing, from their 1951 film called Meet Me After the Show. And in this, there's a duet between Betty Grable and Gwen Verdon. And I just want you to see, number one, the intensity and the interaction in a duet form. This is something that Gwen certainly would have had within her and would have brought with her when she started working with Fosse. So we're going to pick this up here. Now this is actually a tango section, and somehow this seems a little bit like whatever Lola wants in terms of what the flair and the theatricality is. But we just look at how the bodies are working together in a comedic format and how that might have been in her mind eventually as she started to work with Fosse on Who's Got the Pain. And then we go into this swing section. And that's even a little bit. You could see that in Steam Heat. Okay. All right. So that's I Feel Like Dancing from Meet Me After the Show. But the most important one, which is actually also from Meet Me After Show, in which Gwen Verdon does dance in this, but primarily features Betty Grable, is the song No Talent Joe. Now, in this dance, we can really see the same type of hat that's used in Who's Got the Pain. We see many of the same steps, although certainly Betty Grable is not the dancer of Gwen Verdon or Bob Fosse. The steps are not executed in such a full fashion. But we can see a lot of Who's Got the Pain in this movement by Betty Grable. So let's take a look at this. No Talent Joe. And this is 1951, so this is well ahead of the production of Damn Yankees, which opened on May 5th, 1955, and the film of Damn Yankees was in 1958. So the use of the hat. And there's that little hip step that's also in Who's Got the Pain. And a little slide Cole movement there. Now we're going to cut to a little higher tight position on her body, so we can't quite see her hips. But a lot of her hips are doing very similar movements that you'll see in Who's Got the Pain. And actually back there, that is Gwen Verdon in the back. And she danced earlier in a trio with Betty Grable in this song. So there's a hip side to side. There's even a reach forward that you're going to see right there. And there's the hip section again and jumping into the arms. So, all right, let's leave this on here, okay? And the Calypso runs, which also were featured in Who's Got the Pain. Okay, and we can stop that there. So I think we can see that from 1951, No Talent Joe certainly had a very big impact on what eventually became Who's Got the Pain. I want to quickly go into another section here. Now this is actually from 1953. It's a film in which Jack Cole provided choreography called The Farmer Takes a Wife. 1953, and it's another duet with Betty Grable and Gwen Verdon. And again, this is just to establish that duet format and how you present two bodies in a musical theater dance. Again, this one with much novelty. But that incredible physicality that Gwen had in her body is something that was translated into Who's Got the Pain. And you can see that when you watch Who's Got the Pain, her body is doing much more in terms of the precision and the execution than Bob Fosse, who was really big with the jumping in that piece. So again, a little thing, a little aspect of Jack Cole that was making its way into Who's Got the Pain. So now let's go to Who's Got the Pain. So let's take a look at this. Now another section which I didn't bring up is Jack Cole's choreography for Having a Heat Wave, which was from There's No Business Like Show Business in 1954. That was a dance with Marilyn Monroe. Very much in the Mambo vein with the bolero tops on the guys or the bare chests, and really, really using the Mambo aspect in that. And that's something that certainly would have been on the radar of both Fosse and Gwen Verdon, as it came out a little bit before Damn Yankees went into production. And then here, I would say this is more of the comedic aspect of Fosse. Here's a little bit of our normal Mambo steps. The leaps coming from Bob Fosse. And there's another video documentary where Gwen talks about that. And she said how hard it was to keep up with him during his stance, because she said Bob was a jumper and he would just yell at her, jump, get off the floor. And so that's what he contributed. Here's a version of those Calypso runs coming from No Talent Joe. And there's that hip step right there with the Calypso runs, and they repeat it going upstage. Now here's a little bit of Bob Fosse's comedic aspect, I would say. Now they go into a repetition. Most likely Fosse putting this in as it's a comedic thing, a little Charlie Chaplin section. And as we go into the section where they squat and then press their backs and come up, another trick aspect, and that most likely is a real Fosse section. Another leap. So here they're actually getting a little bit repetitious. Now they jump back into that same hip step. And there was that arm reach forward, which is exactly what Betty Grable did. So you could see the little additions between Gwen and Bob coming to make this together, but coming through the lens of Jack Cole. Now Bob was about tricks. He was about the comedy. This is probably most likely something that he came up with. More big Calypso runs. And I just want to wait till we get to the ending. Now this ending here, where he takes her foot and drags her, that's kind of a standard exit in vaudeville, but it's one that Fred Astaire used quite a lot with Ginger Rogers. And here we can see Bob Fosse picking up on that and using that as the exit step from there. So yeah, so we see that there are a lot of aspects of pulling things from the work of Jack Cole that go into this piece. And now that's not something that's coming out in the production of Fosse/Verdon. I think the track that they're taking mostly is that she, offered or contributed so much to the work, and she's undocumented in that, and what is her value, and which certainly is a high value. But they're looking at her as if she was the only one. You really got to look at about Jack Cole, because Gwen worked very extensively with Jack Cole as an assistant, teaching his work, which she then did with teaching Bob Fosse's work. I want to leave you with just a little bit. This is a book called Bob Fosse's Broadway by Marjorie Beto, and there's a lot of great things in here. Just talking a little bit about not taking everything you see on a television show as absolute truth. In the show last night, as they were rehearsing Whatever Lola Wants, there's the 3 steps forward and then the little scratch of the foot. And they gave the impression that Gwen was the one who said, oh, I have an itch, I'm going to scratch my foot. Well, this is from Marjorie, who was there at the time. And this is what she says. In Whatever Lola Wants, Lola does a very intense stalking step towards Joe. After 3 incisive steps, she notices an itch on the back of one calf. She suddenly switches her attention from going after Joe to scratching the back of one leg with her toe, then just as quickly returns to her stalking step. Fosse did it perfectly, but Verdon was having some difficulty keeping her balance. She explained to him that it was perfectly understandable because she was wearing very high heels. The next day, Fosse arrived at rehearsal with a box under his arm. He said to Verdon, "I never ask people to do what I'm not willing to do myself." He then sat down, put on a pair of oversized high heels, and showed her how the step should be done. So that is a direct conflict with what was given last night, in that she created something and was just added in there. Another thing I wanted to mention too was the idea of Gwen Verdon, that Fosse was using all of the women in his life. And there was a section where she's talking on the beach with Neil Simon's wife, and about, all those men, that's what they do. They all take something from us girls and make it their own, So it was a very predatory type of a statement. So there's this idea, if she offers something, it's only used and she gets nothing in return. So I'd like to read something again from Marjorie's book, where she says that she herself, Marjorie, got to play Lola in a version of Damn Yankees. And then she says she auditioned, and thanks to Gwen's coaching, I got the job. One of the boys on our show had been in Damn Yankees. He began to show me the original choreography. When Gwen discovered me working by myself on stage before our show, she proceeded to refine and polish whatever number I was rehearsing, etc. So, and when you think of Gwen in terms of what she did, even after Fosse died, she definitely continued to do his work, to work with dancers, to teach it, to revere it. Here she was teaching other people who were going into shows. She just seemed to be that type of person. I mean, she loved dancing, she loved the work, she wanted to be done right, and she was willing to work with anybody who was that serious the way she was serious. So I don't totally see this as she was, somebody's predating on her and taking her information and just using her in a way. She was somebody who gave of herself freely to many, many, many people, not just Bob Fosse. So there's definitely an aspect to the show of what they're trying to say about something, but there's other sources that contradict that. So everybody should take this with a grain of salt. So anyway, that's my take on that. Who's got the pain? Bob Fosse? No, definitely Gwen Verdon, but even definitely Jack Cole is involved with this. And I think that he needs to get his due, because what he created is something that moved on down the line into the work of Bob Fosse, eventually through many different people. So that's today's video. Again, if you like the channel, please subscribe, hit the like button. And I'm Bob Boross, and this is my Jazz and Tap Dance Life. Thanks for watching.